Hey, Gavax here. So, I've been going over these series, last few Maddens, kind of ranking and reviewing them before my thoughts on 20, and I'm going to do a video on that, but we're on to 18, and at the end of 18 was the first year I started doing, like, year-end wrap-up stuff, so I went back and watched it, and I was very surprised with what I had to say. So we're going to go through Mutt, but first I want to hear what I had to say, and remember, this is prior to face reveal about the gameplay, right? When I said how good was Madden 18, because I went through all the promos there too, and we're gonna break it down again, but this was really interesting to me. So just listen to this, which was at the time June 24, 2018, Fox.
I would say 18 is probably the best of the last 4 years for gameplay wise, because there's the least amount of like complete exploits that ruin your experience. There's still overpowered stuff that they haven't fixed, or it took them too long to fix. You guys know the pitch. Swerve is still there. The Hail Mary glitch they got out within like 3 weeks. They took care of it, but that did ruin the ladder for a while. But overall, I'd say the gameplay itself kind of higher versus the previous 4 years, so I can give it an 8.9. Overall, Mutt, I had a lot of bones.
Let's talk about overall Mutt myself, and I remember I'm going to go through all this stuff, and he gave his thoughts. So I want to review 18, basically with that said gameplay, because I got a lot of comments about how skillful Madden 17 was, and I feel like a lot of people don't remember. The skill in Madden 17 was literally called Nickel Blitz and Gun Bunch. Now, Gun Bunch was definitely the meta in 18 again. Defense was a little bit different. It was more varied. There was different loop blitzes that people went through between 3-3-5 odd. We had 4-6. 3-3-5 normal, I believe I was in near the end of the year, and that kind of started to bleed into 19. I think that was that year, but like, anyways, a lot of people said, oh, Madden 18, what a terrible year because there's just C-routes all year. The thing is, like, people say that, but like, if somebody ran a C-route on me and threw on break, I just subbed in a 90 zone CB the very next play, and if they threw it again, it was an interception, right? There was a counter to that. And that was my biggest issue with 17 was it was basically impossible to counter Nickel Blitz if the defense knew how to set it up correctly. Send 3 and they automatically get a guy through, and there's something you can do. Whereas in 18, we had more tools to counter a lot of that. And 18 was pretty close to 20, and the fact that it was much a power running game. You just call power run, power off tackle there, and it was basically a lot like stretches. It was overpowered, so still annoying there. The run game was still like the best part, so it was close to 20 like that, so that was annoying. But let's get into Mutt, and let's review Mutt itself versus the previous year. And I just want to show you, kind of, here was some of the notes I had at the time. Let me go show, like, I went through all and, like, broke down and gave different ratings to different things. But this is the big thing. Mutt 18, pre-Super Bowl, greater than 17. After the Super Bowl, worse than 17. And that's something that's been kind of, we've seen in the last few years. It really started in 18, which was the degradation of off-season content. And we're not getting anything, basically. And it's kind of come to like a flux in 20, right? It's peaked. It's been terrible. It's been the worst ever. I didn't think it'd get worse than 19. But my rankings for the Mutts were 15, 16, 18, 17. That was just the Mutts, not the gameplay. So, with that said, how was 18, right? And looking back at it with hindsight, with 20, I think it was basically a pretty much, I feel like it's the ground level of what we have right now. It's kind of like the standard thing between different sets. It was the first year of power-ups, and you guys heard me all year. I want you to take a look at my lineup, what I ended the year with. How many power-ups are in my lineup at the end of the year? All right, offense. I don't see any. Right there. Weird. Defense. Any power-ups there? No. So they were trash in 18. They ended up bailing people out by saying, all right, we'll give you an ultimate ticket if you trade in some power-ups. So they kind of cheated, and again, they gave like people a bailout button, even though it was a terrible idea. We had motivators in 18, which was a great promo. The last year that we saw that, we didn't see it in 19 or 20. We had off-season content with summer blockbusters. Scheme and chemistry was like a very unique year versus the last couple. It was like the last of these baked on chemistries where you basically had to, like, you know, find guys to fit your scheme, especially with the motivators. I kept the motivators that started in the beginning of the game. You sub them out, you put in the guy that you actually want to play, which was DeMarcus Lawrence, and I think I did Lamar Woodley instead of Bradley Chubb, but one of those two. And then we had, you know, Megatron free safety ultimate or golden ticket this year. Ultimate ticket was 17. Randy Moss cornerback. This card was great too. So there was a lot of like fun cards. But the 18 problem was the card art sucked, dude. Right? It was very flat. It has these dumbass borders that are still in our game to this day. And I just don't understand who thinks this looks good. So the art of the last couple of years has improved, and I think 18 was a down point for the actual card art. While you can see, oh, that's kind of cool on Randy Moss, kind of like with that, but that was basically the peak, right? There wasn't anything as cool as like 15 or 16 there. You did have some neat stuff. I won't say it's trash, But I will say overall, 18's art, especially the borders kind of playing into that with the cards, is one of the worst parts about it. So it is very standard in the fact that we have a lot of promos, and if we got basically Madden 18 Ultimate Team again in 21, I don't think anyone would bat an eye, because when you look through these upgrade sets and the promos they have, you're like, wow, this is the exact same thing we had with 20. A lot of, same promos over and over again. We go back to the Combine, it ends up just being sets within sets. There were badges there, as you see, so it was the last year of those. So we did have Combine champions, you put your set, and you got better stuff. This had more badges to go into there too, but glad they got rid of badges for this kind of stuff. But now we use players for it, which I think is more fun in the end. Although I will say, with some of that badges, they did have the master sets. They had Elite Token Master, Gold Token Master, Silver Master. So they need to bring that back with like Gold Player Master, Elite Player Master, Silver Player Master. They should bring that kind of stuff back. That was fun. Level Master, we had LaDainian Tomlinson. He wasn't in 20, but he was in this year. So he was basically a very meta running back. The spin and stuff. Near the beginning of the year, it was very overpowered, but they ended up nerfing a lot of the stuff. Like, they paid a lot more attention to the game through the year. And some would say, in some instances, it made it worse, right? So, like, some patches brought some issues in, but overall, I think the patches definitely improved the game through the year. The game at launch was a disaster, right? With how overpowered some things were. And they ended up fixing a lot of that stuff to end of the year. Madden Ultimate Team and Mutt played a lot better than it did at the start of the year, in my opinion. So, Loot Blitzes, Gun Bunch, C Routes, Power Run. It was kind of the meta for a lot of the year. Spin with Barry Sanders. Bo Jackson, of course. It was the year of the infamous Zero Chill, out of position Bo Jackson, as a lot of people hated it. I actually didn't mind him as much as a lot of people. A lot of people just took offense to it for some reason, that Bo Jackson was like in every position ever. And I was like, it's cool. It's fine. It's different, but there was a lot of people that take themselves way too seriously for fun ideas like that. And so why I was like, okay, oh my God, we got a Bo at middle linebacker. He's too powerful. I was like, whatever, dude. That's what Mud is, right? One powerful card after another. So it's just gameplay mechanics that end up being too powerful that annoy me the most. But overpowered cards, that's just Madden Ultimate Team. That happens all the time. So it was the first year of slow off-season content, which I think was the most annoying thing. And you're like, oh, slow off-season content, but guess what? It still had position heroes, summer blockbusters, which is something we didn't get in 17. So it's even gone down more. Fan appreciation. I believe this was the first year of that too, so that kind of brought new. And that was kind of hot here even through 20. So it's weird to say, oh, it was a slow off season, and it was. It just wasn't something we were used to. We saw it in like 16, 17. If you remember what I just said a few minutes ago, with 18 being better than 17 pre-Super Bowl, but 17 being better than 18 after Super Bowl, it's something that's just continued. And I don't understand the problem with the Mutt team, right? They brag about how much more people they're getting to play, how much more money they're bringing in, that revenue, that kind of shit, but they keep cutting back on content in the offseason. It makes no sense as your business grows for you to cut back on services. Like, EA is run by a bunch of, a bizarro world executives, right? They're like, clearly this is popular. What should we do? Dedicate less resources to it. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'll never get that, right? You'll never justify that to me in a way that can make sense. And if you do, you are a silver-tongued motherfucker, okay? You are an absolute genius, and you could fucking start a cult. A fucking Halley's Comet cult, and get people to drink that Kool-Aid, because that would be an amazing thing for you to be able to convince me that off-season content should go down. So NFL movers, those also happened. We got some free agent promos. So there was some pretty good stuff in here. And like I said, seeing 18, if that was 21 content, it wouldn't be out of sync at all. The Gauntlet was there, Team of the Year, Super Bowl. All this stuff is so normal. Chemistry, okay, that's a little out of it, but the biggest thing is the worst promo of all time we got, which was the GOAT promo, right? It was super expensive. The expansion to the GOAT promo had a lot of people pissed off because we ended up getting better cards in it just a little bit later, and people had these NAT cards. That was the problem with power-ups in this year, is that became NAT, and you couldn't do anything with it instead of being able to downgrade it, which is a much better thing we have now, right? Power-ups in 20 were much better than this year, and I think power-ups themselves, I should do a video on them. The only way to redeem them, in my opinion, is to make them evolution type cards, but that's not this video. We're evaluating 18. So it was the worst promo that I've seen in Madden history, and it was easy to make money off it and coins off it, though. So it was really great for the people like myself that were able to profit out, I forgot the exact profit spot. I think the packs were really good, but there was some pretty good like value there. But it was a terrible promo for people that actually tried to engage in it and that were like cared about their coin stack to get those kind of cards. Because when they say GOATs, they were great cards, right? These are like all-time great. We had Barry Sanders, we had Dion, Bo, Ronnie Lott. So like we had the GOATs, but the cards ended up being a little bit dramatic. Color Rush also wasn't wonderful in my opinion either. So in 18 it had a lot of late content too, right? Golden tickets came out very late. We were expecting them, like, where are they? Position heroes came out late. That was disappointing. No mid-season master this year either, which was something we kind of became used to. So we did get a lot of content cut back, a little bit of a change. So we were a little disappointed in some of it versus others. But that's kind of what it is, right? I went over level master. Abilities also got expanded, so I know a lot of people. Abilities are super, I would say, controversial in this community. Some people are okay with them. I think a lot of people are okay with them if they were well balanced, but the problem is abilities over the time have not been well balanced, and we'll see going into 21 what becomes overpowered, of course, because we knew a few of them in 20 were for a long time. But that's how the game is kind of evolving, going more towards the abilities, and 18 really expanded on them from 17, who basically brought them up. So Secure Tackler, you basically played two-hand touch on defense with Secure Tackler, and you could have an entire Secure Tackler defense, which you see on my roster right here. And this was, I like Rodney Harrison as UF. That'd be kind of cool if it was FU, because that would be funny. I like swear words. But there it is. It was the first year of Weekend League, and squads actually came into it, and squads did not have a great meta. And squads has not had a great meta for a few years, right? It's very hard to throw in it. It's a very run-based mode, but they brought squads back, which is cool. They expanded on it in 20 with Superstar KO to not have to have a Madden Ultimate Team in order to play with a couple friends. 21, we're getting the Yard, which is like the same thing, but you build up your own character. So squads coming back was a very nice thing they brought to 18. I do believe House Rules was going into 19, so that was a year away still. And one last thing is the cards. A lot of them played similarly because the upgrades. What we saw in 16, where there were so many budget cards and cards played similarly or differently because of their stats being wildly different. 18 brought it up, and 17 had a major issue with the +1 syndrome, where like if a card got upgraded, you just got like +1s, +2s, and 18 had a big issue there. And a lot of cards that came out like linemen, if you were the same overall. If you were similar overalls, you basically had the same exact stats. 20 is a little bit better. It's a little bit more varied, but not exactly where I want to see it, where cards play more unique to the player on the field and play a little bit different so you can kind of scheme around them a little bit. So there it is. I mean, a lot of people look back on 18 with frustration, but I think 18 was a better game than 17 gameplay-wise for sure. Mutt, yes, before the Super Bowl, no after the Super Bowl because it was a down year for that. So that's kind of what 18 was. And so there was high and low. Pack odds were still trash. I remember Mutt Draft was basically forgotten about in 18 until it was like revived by competitive, because competitive like forgot about it when it was a competitive season. So it was very, very frustrating for people who did Mutt Draft and liked it. The auction house basically didn't change from where it's at right now, so that's the same. I wish they'd upgrade that to an MLB style auction house. Long shot was a waste of resources, and that's frustrating that they brought that into the game. I really hope they get rid of that long shot type shit going forward and just spend that resources on franchise Ultimate Team gameplay. That kind of shit that people actually put a lot of hours into. And that's what I want to say about that. We can go back and look at some of the more minor categories that I talked about. Oop, wrong one. And it's right here. Time played. I think in 20 I had like 170 days. I think I did a video on that. I had 1,500 hours, something like that. Sets and promos. Solos were at 8. Objectives. 9.2. Level master levels were 9.0, which I think was new to 18. Card art 7.8. Sporters 1.0. The binder still has its issues. Card art still didn't load sometimes. And with the auction house is better, like I talked about. Squads being back to draft champions. Weekend League was brought in. Packs sucked. Menus and layout was okay. Long shot sucks. And there's the overall ratings that I gave it. So overall, I thought 18... Hearing people talk about 18, they were very like, oh, 18 was the worst, 18 was the worst. Looking back on it, 18, it left a sour taste in our mouth, much like 20 is doing, right? It's too bad they always leave the year in such a poor spot, because the game overall through the year was fine with them bringing content out quite frequently, but then when it got to the end of the year, we kind of like left with like, okay, You're just gonna hit it and quit it, and then like we're kind of like sad. And 18 was kind of that. Like people remember the summertime when content was slow and people were frustrated, and it was something we weren't used to, and it was an adjustment period, and we kind of got pissed off. Like when Dad goes to the gas station, doesn't come back, right? You're just like, how long does it take to get cigarettes? But then Jake Stein's already on to 19 and 20 and 21, and we're just kind of left holding the bag for the family. And it's sad boy hours. But 18, interesting. Better than 17. 16, about the same. 15, probably a little bit better than those two because the lack of nano blitzes and the meta got changed up a bit. That's it. Thanks for watching. Call to action. I'll see you.